We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by Cosmos09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D.K. Blazy Gardner, and Mitchell in the audience. And we're here to talk about The Walking Dead's 20th episode of its 11th and final season, titled What's Been Lost? A very cool episode, I'll have to admit. It's hard to admit because there's some things that frustrated me about this episode. Before we continue, obviously, there is a sale still in the merch store. Yay! Whoop, whoop. Well, first, let me tell you how to get there. Obviously, you can go to squawkingdead.com, click the main menu in the top left, and choose merch. Or in any one of our YouTube videos, you can head to the description, and there's a whole section of how to follow us, how to support us, and as well as a little link to our merch store as well. Now, we told you about the new art design that we have in our merch store, but there are two new logo designs in our merch store, and I'm actually curious, tell us in the comments which one you like better. I have a feeling I know which one you do like better. Is it the one that has the same moon in our art design with the black letters, or is it the darker red blood moon with the light logo text? So let us know. Blood moon. I really like how they turned out. It's basically our logo with the blood moon behind it. One that the blood moon is very well lit up at the top, and the other that is kind of inverted with a dark red blood moon with the light text. So if you like it, well, there's a good price in the merch store. So it's $14 classic tees, 35% off everything else in the store, up to 35% off in the store. I always make the same mistake. Support us. If you feel like it, it's worth it. Obviously, you can also support us by buying Phineas Coffee.
As you level up your podcast game with Squawking Dead, level up your coffee game.
Let's go.
Phineas Coffee roasts each bag to order, which means it will have optimal power when it reaches your doorstep. For coffee veterans, there's a bourbon barrel-aged coffee from Guatemala. And for you coffee novices, like Sharendi, Blazy Gardner, they have a cold brew with chocolate and toffee flavors. Go to PhineasCoffee.com and use the promo code SquawkingDead to get 10% off your next purchase. And now back to Squawking Dead.
Let's talk about our feelings in the round table. Mitchell in the audience says episode 20 was sad since it was Teo's last episode. How do you feel about saying goodbye to Teo? You had 2 more episodes than we thought we would, I think, in my opinion. And it was kind of like, well, I guess it is time to go. Better gone than like this.
Disagree. I was really excited. Well, okay, like you said, we got 2 more episodes than what we expected, right? When we initially see him get bit by the walker, we're all like, oh man, oh damn it, bye Sebastian, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh no, Pamela's going to keep him around, and I thought there was going to be more to that. Like I thought we'd see more Walker Teo, and like we'd see her feeding people to using Sebastian. I really thought we were going to see more governor out of Pamela.
I wanted her to like be using him to bite people and stuff, and then him turn on her.
Yeah.
I feel with Sebastian the way I feel about a lot of characters here towards the end. Leah, Lance, they bring them on, they make these compelling characters that you are interested in, and then there's so much that they could do with them, and then they just kill them off pretty unceremoniously in most cases. Because I felt Lance's death was super underwhelming. I even told Rachel, okay, so this is what we're doing with this. This is it. I wanted more out of it than that. I'm going back to last week. It feels rushed.
I actually kind of feel the same way as you, Sharon. In the reaction video, which we did the night before, my face said everything in that moment. Like, oh, this is happening. We drew out this really great, compelling character. Not as much for Sebastian as for Lance. I've actually made my peace with Sebastian. It took a little while, but I was like, okay, on paper, this makes complete sense. And I'm forced to, on paper, be okay with this, because objectively what Sebastian has done is awful. And I will say Pamela following in her son's footsteps, it seems, in this episode. Well, I've got all these people. Let's just model what Sebastian tried to do, use people for his own personal gain. Looks like Pamela's doing the same thing with our survivors, using them for what appears to be manual labor, aka slavery. But in an objectively worse way. But Lance is a tough one. Lance, Leah. And you know what? I actually had a bit of a conversation to give a shout out to Just Keep Walking podcast. I spoke to Ben this morning about all of this. And one of the things I kind of want to segue into is what he and I both noticed about the different styles of show running from Gimple to Kang. As much as I sing Angela Kang's praises, I feel like this episode highlights maybe some of the weaknesses in her style of, I can't believe I'm criticizing, but this is what's happening. Overwhelmingly, I've loved her commanding of the show for the last couple seasons. But one thing that Gimple does well that Angela overwhelmingly does better, except for one small thing, and that's Gimple tends to use the whole deer when he goes hunting. He'll use everything, even though he probably shouldn't. Right, he'll use all the characters in a given episode, or as many as possible. He'll give them somewhat of a satisfying, moving in a right direction sort of way. I think Angela does it better, but when it comes to the characters that we don't care about, or we probably don't care about as much, let's say like Lance, Leah, Toby Carlson.
Oh, Toby, yeah.
Even Ian of Riverbend, which, I mean, whatever, that is fine. He came on quickly and left quickly, so that's okay. Even Lance, that we shouldn't care about, have these built up, she tends to like throw them away.
Leah was given a substantial basis. Even though she wasn't in many episodes, she was a big part of moving forward from 10C through 11. She had a firm basis in the story. She wasn't just a throwaway character. But yet they built her up and then threw her away when there was so much more they could have done with her that we talked about during 11B.
I completely agree.
That was just so dumb. I just hated that. But she could have gone to the Commonwealth and done something. She could have sided with somebody else. There's so many things they could have done with her rather than kill her off in such a inglorious way.
Rushed fashion.
Right. And I feel the same way with Lance and Sebastian. They built Sebastian up, and then it's like, oh, he's just gonna get bitten. That's it. He's like, what? No. I guess I get why they did it with Sebastian, because to subvert the comic, because he was supposed to be the one who kills Rick, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, no, he's not going to do anything like that. We're going to kill him instead. I feel the same way about Lance. Lance, there's so much potential there, so much more they could have done with him. And to end it in such a predictable, ridiculous way, I knew he was going to reach for something when he went to the end of the stupid Jeep. It was just so rote. Of course he's going to do that and they're going to kill him. I was very underwhelmed and disappointed with that.
I was disappointed they killed Lance off in general. He was a great bad guy. And Sebastian too. Not like in the nefarious kind of like evil genius way, but like he was a spoiled little brat and we love to hate him.
Well, also in like a complicated, but that's the thing, like they built up all the complicated ways that we can somewhat side with them, somewhat in some ways.
Yeah.
Even, especially Lance, because he spits a lot of truth in this episode. I'm like, yeah, well, what are you gonna do, Carol? Are you gonna let them all burn? Let dreams burn, people burn?
Yeah, but she's not focused on the after, right? Like she said, I don't care about after right now. Right now, my focus is getting my people back. I'm not thinking about what's going to happen after.
Right.
I would compartmentalize that as well. Like right now, I need to get my people back. Then we can talk about what we're going to do as a group. But they killed off Sebastian. They killed off Lance. Who's our big bad now? Pamela. Pamela's our big bad. Well, we have what? 4 episodes left?
Right.
20. No, 4. We have 4 episodes left. Are they really going to introduce us to a whole nother bad guy? Or are we just going to be left with Pamela? I feel like.
And for what, too?
I say this all the time. I trust the writers. They're going to do it and we're going to love it and we're going to watch it. But right now, I'm just sitting here feeling like you took away all of our bad guys. So now we know who and what we're dealing with. We don't know who's going to be the bigger of the bad guys. We weren't sure, like, is Pamela really the big bad? Is Lance going to be worse than Pamela? Now we don't even have that option. We can't even think about it anymore because we're only left with Pamela.
And for all our constant going back and forth about who would be the better leader, Lance or Pamela too, and what he probably
doesn't
believes
matter
versus what she does, and what she thought her ethos was, what we thought her ethos was supposed to be versus what we got. Same thing with Lance. You know, it was a lot of build up for what. And maybe, look, there's no denying that a lot of what we talked about is baked in. There were a lot of assumptions that we made right out of the gate at the beginning of the season, the introduction of these characters, and a lot of that comes with the comics too. I'm consciously aware of that. But I don't think that excuses them doing what they're doing right now. But one of the other things that I did say with Ben in our conversation is that there's an interesting opportunity to take Lance's words, and it's a very big gamble because I'm assuming a lot, is to take Lance's words to Carol, and in his own way, the character narratively turns into a walker, kind of like what Mitchell says in the chat. Narratively, his words will live on after him and roam the earth. You can't let the Commonwealth burn, Carol. Like that sort of thing. Unlike what Mitchell says, we're going to probably see a
We're going to literally see
Walker Lance
yeah.
in the next episode in 1121. Maybe. And he says that Pamela will see him and put him down. Maybe.
I mean, nobody killed his brain, so we definitely could see a Walker Lance.
Nobody killed
Yeah,
his brain.
I really, really wanted to see more Walker Teo, though. If they were going to hold on to him in that state, I would have been completely fine with Walker Teo till the end of the
series.
Yeah.
I happen to be, I don't know what it is, but I'm putting on my big boy pants, my objective big boy pants, and saying, narratively speaking, I'm actually okay with having Lance and Liam more than anything else. Why are they both L names? What is this? Superman, Lois, Lara? Anyway. But Sebastian, I'm 100% okay with. And part of that is actually knowing is with the knowledge that he died in the episode prior. No, 2 episodes ago, right? Yes, 2 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. Where they killed him. He's dead. Walker Sebastian is inconsequential to me because I had to make my peace with them killing him. It was really hard, but on paper, it makes sense. He did the crime. He's doing the time. Okay, that makes sense. Lance is a little bit more complicated because, look, we put on him, obviously, a lot of, with all the mystery that they've built up behind Lance, that you could be like, oh, he's probably this, or he's probably that, or what are his intentions? He looks like he's trying to do a power grab, but who knows? Then there's this sexual tensions, like, okay, wait, was it all about power? Is it just to impress Pamela? And he kind of affirms that it's not just about the power. It's also about impressing Pamela and maybe getting some recognition and never getting it. But I'm less complicated about Sebastian's Walker demise even.
That's just my personal preference is all. It does make sense narratively, but I'm just being selfish and wanted more.
And the reaction video, I just went, hi, Teo, I'm sorry, but we got some mileage out of you.
If they went through the trouble for Pamela to be like, feed my son, Lance, and I figured they were going to she was going to keep him around for nefarious purposes, threatening people, or you think you have special privileges? Look at my son, like.
Talk about privilege. To your point, though, she even says in the episode to her donors, she says, he's always with me. I thought that was a very cool tongue-in-cheek way of saying, I'll always have him with me. And, well, I'm kind of glad that he's gone because now she doesn't. So she's going to make more mistakes, I think. You could see it on her face at the press conference. She couldn't hide the fact that Yumiko was messing up her plans. Not even before she messes up her plans. The fact that she makes her brother stand up in front of the crowd. She was already making this like, ugh, peasant's face. You're like, ugh, gross. Thanking your brother. Ugh, you have somebody. Ugh. Ew. Because I think at this point she knows she's lost her son. Daryl and Carol have already sprung Lance out. So this is with the knowledge that he's gone, I think, at this point. If I'm not mistaken, in sequence of events. I want to go to Mitchell. Mitchell says Mercer wasn't in the episode at all. He's suddenly gone. We're the rest of Team Family. So either Mercer helped with their kidnapping or he was taken as well. That is a good question to ask. Where do you think, I mean, we don't know the answer, but where do you think he is? What's going on? Daryl does bring him up in the episode. Mercer could help, but in the absence of Mercer, Carol says we can play the Lance card.
I actually think Mercer has no idea what's going on because we saw the bagmen and they were not soldiers. They were not Commonwealth soldiers.
Right.
So I don't think Mercer would have anything to do with the kidnapping. And I don't know that he would necessarily be bagged himself if they can just distract him with something else and keep him busy while all this other stuff is going on. I think we'll find out in the next episode how much he knows about what's going on. He may just have a completely full plate between Eugene and Max and everything that's going on in his little world. He might not even notice the other people are gone. And did Princess make it out or did she also get bagged? We didn't see what ultimately happened to Princess. She's who he would notice.
If he was asked to go get all of these people and turn them over to this little private Gestapo or whatever, I feel like that would be the last straw for him. Like he would be like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like he's already teetering on the edge. And I feel like that would be the last straw to push him over the edge. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like he would be smart enough to not be no to their face.
To toe the line until he could.
Toe the line, but meanwhile be working behind the scenes to get everybody out. I do not think he would go along with that at all. But I also don't feel like he's bagged either. I think Rachel's right. I think he's being detained with something else.
Yeah, kind of goes along with what Pamela says in the episode to her donors, but actually to Kathleen, her replacement Max, who is played by, I mentioned it in the...
You called her out in the
cake. Yeah, I called her. Yeah, I called out her screen name. It was at K_cause, CAUS on Instagram. Her name is Katie Causey. I was like, she got a pay bump from being a background actor to having a speaking part ish. So she wants to develop a campaign or a presence of transparency, quote unquote, because she wants to gain the public's trust again. And again, it's all about image. It's all about theater, like Yumiko says. And so I think, first of all, disappearing Mercer in any way, but also apprehending him would completely demolish public trust. So she can't remove him from the board without making it so that he does something very, very stupid, which she might do if he doesn't toe the line, just like she did with basically everybody, essentially. I'm curious. It's something I did say in the last episode was also that wouldn't it be something if Mercer might not do the right thing? Let's read what Mitchell says because it made you gasp. I love Pamela. I hope she is the last person standing in the end. They've already killed all, quote unquote, of the main people minus Mercer and Max. They wouldn't kill Pamela. And if they do, I'll be super sad. I'm enjoying her character so much. The Lila Robbins. Mm-hmm. But he also
She's doing
said
a great job.
The
Also
thing
with
that
the
made
boys.
you gasp. I have a feeling that someone big will die next episode like Rosita, though I don't want her to. It's time to kill someone big, which is another thing that Ben said. They've been holding back on big cast deaths, main cast deaths.
I think we got some coming.
Yeah, in response to that, I told him, like, we've done the deaths for death's sake, too. So I'm okay with them not doing that. But there is something to be said about, like, throwing all these well-developed characters that we meet in the last season in the fire right away, ingloriously, like Sharondy says, not at all touching our main cast. So that is something to consider. It doesn't go over my head that that's a thing.
So I actually want to go back to what you were saying before, though, about Mercer not doing the right thing. He has the opportunity to, let's say, for example, well, I guess not now because most of our people have been bagged and shipped out. But if he had the opportunity to help someone escape, let's say he ran into Connie and he had the opportunity to get her out before she was caught. You think he would have
She's already caught.
not done that? Right. But what do you mean by not doing the right thing?
Well, I mean, so far, he's always sided with the Commonwealth to the point where he almost, like we said in the last
With
episode.
the people. He's sided with the people of the Commonwealth.
Well,
Like to keep them safe. His job is to keep them safe. So every
True.
decision he makes is to keep the people safe.
but that's
And my
gotten very nebulous.
guess is he hasn't had very many reasons to go against the Commonwealth until our group shows up.
Yes.
As usual and burns it all down.
Yeah.
He hasn't
And-
had a challenge.
Yeah, we
in
know
the
our group
Commonwealth.
fucks everything up.
He hasn't had to make any of these hard decisions. They're
Yes.
coming on him now as everything is kind of coming down.
That's another thing I noticed with the way Daryl and Carol take down Lance, which, again, after watching the episode again, I get it. I actually do get it. Why they brought up the whole there's always a way with him and looking at the coin and going haplessly, just so insane, is that it's not about finding a way out. It's about finding a way in. There's always a path in, not out for Lance. We were attributing
Into what?
into graces or into a position of power or into a position of influence. One of the things he notes in the episode that we have to not take for granted is of all the people in the Commonwealth, he has been the only one, as far as we can tell, that has risen above his station. Everything in the Commonwealth is a line of succession so far that as we've seen. Your father's a general, Mike Mercer, you're a general. Sebastian, you're next in line to be whatever it is they call a president or prime minister or whatever, prime minister, Governor Pamela, whatever, Milton, whatever.
Yeah.
He, as he said in this episode, reminding us of what his father did for the Miltons, was a chauffeur's son. So he should have been a chauffeur's son. And yet he's the
But
only
he was
one.
Should've
driving.
been a chauffeur.
But he was driving things in the Commonwealth.
This is true.
I think they were trying to be
This is
literal
true.
when it comes to station. So obviously he's doing PR work and whatnot. And Pamela lets him do all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there wasn't a whole lot of use for chauffeurs in the immediate post-apocalypse. So she was like, okay, I don't need you to drive me around, but you seem pretty clever. So here, work on this instead.
Right, but isn't the irony great? So that's what I like about the irony that I wish they would have hammered home, and maybe it takes a podcast like us to break it down. But the irony of it, it's not our group. It really took me a long time between yesterday and today to really put the pieces together. It's not really our group that's the Midas touch this time. Of all the people that takes the destiny, and he even says it in this episode, which I love, is like takes destiny into his own hands. He is the one, and yet he is the one of all the people that actually get a chance to make something of themselves outside of what their station was supposed to be, he's the one that really literally brought the Commonwealth down, which makes me feel very okay that he's gone. Because if it wasn't for him doing a couple of things, it could have been fine. But he told Toby Carlson to make scapegoats of our group. Oh, Gabe and Aaron screwed the pooch when it came to Riverbend, so we need somebody to take the blame in the fall for the caravan. So it's either these people or their group or both. Remember, he was talking about this, that like we've got two contingencies here. If Gabe and Aaron happen to die along the way, that's fine too. Or if they die and then Gabe and Aaron survive, then we've got somebody to blame for everything going wrong. Either way, we have a scapegoat for our caravan going missing. For my schemes behind the scenes, which, again, had he not made those schemes and things, and had he not continued to pursue Maggie for turning him down, for his offer of joining the Commonwealth, and then again, trying to find a way through, a path forward, contracting Leah to kill basically everybody, including Maggie, then that, which explains Daryl's rage against this guy, but like holding back everything from not killing him on the spot. I like that. So it's not really our group that's the Midas touch. This is all Lance's fault. We have to put all of this into perspective. Had it not been for Lance, Eugene would have gotten together with Max and they would have been happy for a while and maybe would have changed the Commonwealth from the inside incrementally, like I said before. But if not for Lance, he put Stephanie in Max's place because he intercepted the communications and caused a whole lot of problems. So again, it's good to remember, and I like all of this, but then they get rid of him so unceremoniously. It's very interesting what they built up, but then they almost threw away.
And there's like no way he survived that, right?
The arrow to the neck?
Yeah, there's no way we can sit here and be like, he might be okay, right?
Remember when I was saying put a Band-Aid on it?
Right?
I thought maybe until he started spitting blood out of his face in copious amounts, and then I was like, no,
Yeah.
I think he's dead now.
Yeah.
Well, if you want a mirror or a parallel, Lance gets an arrow through the other side of the neck that Sebastian was bit on. So that's kind of that's a kind of interesting. They both got shot in the neck in their own way.
Man, what a waste of not having him killed by a lance. I'm sorry.
Oh,
In a way,
shit.
a tiny one. like Carol misses, and then Daryl throws a lance at Lance
Oh, God.
that has a horn and
Yeah.
a B at the end. Cue our logo.
I'm comfortable.
One more time.
I'm comfortable with saying Lance definitely screwed the Commonwealth over before our group had a chance to.
Yes, yeah.
But-
so thank
but-
goodness for that.
But they would have. They would have eventually.
That's mean.
The real downfall started
True.
when Connie printed the article about Sebastian. That is when shit really started to go south for the Commonwealth. Yeah, shit was messed up. Lance had messed up with everybody else, but that was what made the public get angry.
With the people, yeah.
The people
Wait,
get
but
angry
who
and step forward.
orchestrated that? Who furnished the list? Our boy Lance Hornsby. Had he not slid that list under
but
her
it wasn't
desk?
just the list, though. I mean, because they had the whole story with April and everything too. So the list,
Right.
The list was extra.
Tyler
That
Davis.
wasn't totally necessary. But
Right.
they got the story from Rosita and Daryl, and when Rosita and Daryl went to the house, that is where the Commonwealth really started to go downhill. Because the people rose up against them. So our group did kind of burn it down in a way.
But let's put this in perspective. I don't think they would have known the scope in order to gain a lot of proof. And the person behind all of this anyway was Lance, because Lance facilitated Sebastian's dealings. He probably thought of the rich person he needed to hit anyway. Lance is in all of this. He was great at influencing all of this. I mean, to his credit.
Yes, but he was keeping the status quo up until our party came along and blew the lid off of it. Lance had it under control for the most part. He's always been doing shady shit, but he's always been getting away with it because he's managed to cover it up or keep it under wraps. But our group came in and blew the lid off of his weapons thingy going on. They got Toby involved in. And then the Sebastian thing. Yes, Lance is the one who's doing it, but he's not the one that made it all fall down. Our group did, as usual.
But I think a lot of the influence in bringing it down had to do with Lance, though, which I think is puts them in a very interesting position to, like Lance says in this episode, yeah, but are you willing to burn all of it down? Because if you remove Pamela, who takes over? Are you willing to throw away the lives of 50,000 people / your children's future? So That's why I said to Ben, I said when we were talking from, by the way, Just Keep Walking podcast, this puts him in a very interesting corner. What I like, I've mentioned this on the show before, but what I like is when characters in the story are put in these interesting, like almost Kobayashi Maru sequences where like there's an unwinnable situation, but then they have to write themselves out of it. If they do it right, it's satisfying. Where's Mike Mercer? Where's Max? We're missing them. These are very interesting characters that could come in and fuck shit up. Where's Negan? Where is Annie? And that was my first worry when they were going around sedating people. Literally, my only concern was Annie or baby. Oh, he's there too, because in the episode he says they even got
Daryl
dog.
says they even got dog, but I didn't see him on the bus. Do they have him sedated with a hood on his head too?
They've got to.
Yeah,
dog.
probably.
Dog would be biting them. Dog knows the bad
Poor
guys.
dog.
Dog.
He'd be biting.
Here I am worrying about
I don't care
pregnant
about
lady.
all the people on the bus. I don't care about all those other people on the bus. I just worry about dog.
Here I am thinking there's a lady that might be affected by the sedatives, her unborn child.
Whatever.
And you're like, yeah, dog. Like,
Annie
What are
is
your
the
priorities,
reddest of red shirts ever. Like she is. You look up red shirt in the dictionary. It's got a picture of Annie underneath it.
a few spaces down, maybe.
She's already dead. I'm
Yeah.
not worried about her and
Yeah.
that baby. They're already dead.
The baby's
Wait,
in a
we
pink
thought
shirt.
Ezekiel was
Baby
dead.
doesn't even get a red shirt. It's a pink shirt.
Baby, it's in a pink shirt.
A pink onesie.
Yeah.
It's a gift from Athena.
Yeah.
Oh man. Ooh. Oh, that stings. I think we can all agree one thing: that dogs are not the future. Like you outlive maybe 2 to 3 dogs in your lifetime. So
Yes, but they're
Babies-
still better.
Exactly.
They're
they
still
burn
better.
brighter, Dave. They burn brighter.
You don't see dog going around sticking people with needles or bashing their heads in and leaving coins in the brains.
People are capable of that.
They know the difference between good people and bad people.
Right.
Maybe.
Unless they're raised by the bad people, and then they're confused. They're not the bad
Okay.
people. They're who feeds them.
So, yeah, whatever. Give me foods. So Mitchell also said, I don't like how it was strictly Daryl Carol. I love them both, but I feel like we could have gotten more with Yumiko and Pamela this episode. I think we got enough, personally, but he also says, or to see where Mercer is up to. But he also says, damn, Sharon.
Damn.
You know she's just kidding. You know.
Oh, I
No.
I
was.
think. Maybe.
I'm not
I
kidding.
think.
That was
What?
no joke.
Mitchell's with me. Team people, right? Oh, nobody's with me. Anyway, who cares about me?
Team
People
horses.
suck.
What do you think is the significance of Lance smashing in Sebastian's head and leaving the coin in the brains? Because he made a very clear point, like, I need to do something first. Was it just a message to Pamela, or do you think there was some other thing behind that?
I don't want to say what I said during my react because it reminded me too much of another scene that I don't like to talk or think about.
Abraham or
No,
Glenn?
Glenn. I think my comment was, this makes Glenn's death look clean.
Pretty messy.
I feel like there's probably more to it, but me, I'm literal, right? I'm the literal one.
A literal
The
person.
literal.
You take things literally, not figuratively.
I do. So I feel like it was more like he made Sebastian unrecognizable and left his coin there so that Pamela knew he did it. Look what I
Yeah.
did to your son.
I feel the same way. I may have fed him, maybe figuratively, I may have fed him in life and in death, but in the end I got what I wanted, or I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm going to get what's due. He's actually paying. He's putting a down payment.
Well, I mean, what I was saying is, she told him a couple of episodes ago that he wasn't in the game. He was never even a player in the game. And he
Oh,
dropped his
yeah.
coin in that fucking slot, buddy. He's a player now.
I didn't think of that, but I did think, wow, what a way to go, Teo. That's all I was thinking. I was thinking of my friend,
Yeah.
not somebody who's dead many years ago. Just kidding.
Just thinking about Daryl and Carol standing there watching him bash in Sebastian's head while they just stand there watching.
Right.
Well, Carol wasn't there when Glenn died, so it wouldn't be as triggering for her, but I bet that was triggering for Daryl, especially considering it was his fault.
Damn, the wounds still run deep.
I'm I'm not over it yet.
Never forgive him, even though like you love him. You love Daryl in his own way. You love Carol more, obviously, but you like Daryl still.
I love that Daryl loves Carol, but I could take or leave Daryl.
As long as they don't fall out of grace.
Yeah. Like if Carol was ever like, nah, I'm good, I'd be like, yeah, me too, girl. Me too.
Me too. Let's go.
Let's get out of here.
You just do-si-do on out.
Arm in
Bye,
arm.
bitch. Hey, where are you going? I don't care.
Go shower. Bye.
She would mourn the loss of Carol's best friend.
Yeah, I would.
Oh,
I would,
way to bring down the room, Sharon.
I would be sad because Carol's sad, not because we lost Daryl.
Well, that makes what they have to do at the end a little bit like it's just there is like these little bits where you're like, yes, it's okay for Lance to go because first of all, he went from insane to even like to diabolical, right? You went from insane, feeding Sebastian, and there's always a way. And listen, I'll give it to Josh Hamilton. That scene where they find him, not as much the muttering to yourself and there's always a way. When Daryl and Carol grab him, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he was panicked, like, just panicking.
Like a child, you know, like I was just,
And
what
like
a great choice.
not comprehending what's going on. Like you could see him like not fully aware, and then all of a sudden like come around and be like, yeah, okay, I can help. I can be useful.
Because there's always, he found his way. He was like, but what about the Commonwealth? But who's going to take over? And I don't think he means him. I think he means I'd be happy to be your number 2. I want to please you, Carol. Do you know what I mean? Like
I got a pocket you can dig around in.
Transferring from Pamela to Carol, transferring his allegiance.
And to the point where like he's like he knows where the bread is going to be buttered when it all comes down to it. But also like I was a little confused by why he was so quick to say, "Oh, he's just dead weight" initially. And then I was thinking, in my final analysis, I was like, he's feeling her out again. He's doing the thing that he does. Like, how important is Dixon to Carol? And then you find out just how important he is by saving him eventually. That you can't do this alone. So, yeah, he's cool again. Yeah, no, I really mean that he's okay. But I think he knows that he's not going to ever leave. But at least he knows that he can continue doing, or he thought he knew he could continue doing what he was doing before under Carol, let's say. Oh, she still needs people, so obviously she's not, I guess I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
I'm not necessarily sure Pamela completely trusted Lance either, but Carol would never even give him the freedom or the powers that Pamela gave to him.
And I think he'd be okay with that, though, too. Because as long as it's not Pamela.
He'd be a fucking chauffeur if Carol were in charge.
I think he'd be happy with that. Just like Mitchell says, no coins, so the pocket is available.
And I think that Carol would recognize he does have value as a wheeler dealer. I mean, she's seen what he can do out in the field. And maybe part of this was her feeling out if they could contain him. He can be useful. Let's see if we can trust him in any fucking way, shape, or form. And the answer she got was no, obviously. But I think she realized that he did have value in the things he could do. But you just can't trust him to do them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And were it not for Daryl, I don't think Carol would have recognized. Let's put this into perspective. All her experiences with Lance or that of facilitating a better Commonwealth, let's say. So it's very easy to see how without Daryl and his experiences with Lance, all the things that he put into motion behind the scenes to wreck our people, without his feedback into that experience, losing Leah, almost losing Maggie, almost losing Aaron and Gabe behind the scenes, it kind of goes to what Lance was trying to say about Daryl, and just at the very beginning saying, oh, he's dead weight, cut him loose. But no, without him, I wouldn't know the cancer that you are to the Commonwealth as well. It could have been at some point that you were doing this for the Commonwealth's good. But just like Pamela, we find out that Lance is only doing this for himself. Fine, I'll admit it. And for his prominence and for his manifest destiny. But maybe there's an argument to be had that Pamela put him in this position, right? He only got a chance because she gave him a chance, and then he thrived under that, having that chance. But with restraints, she takes all the credit. She is the face of the Commonwealth, blah, blah, blah. So that's an argument one could have. But at the end of the day, he made decisions. And the core of his being was that there's always a way. And there's always a way, not out, but in. That's why he picks up the gun. I would rather die than not have a way in. because I was trying to figure out, why are you being so stupid? You say it yourself a couple seconds ago, there's a couple troopers here and there. You can handle them, right? So why pick up the gun? It's because he really is gone. I like that they established that he's gone up here. He has no tether to reality. There's no reason why he would pick up that gun if he wasn't tethered to reality.
I can agree with that, because there was a line when Daryl came back. Carol was like, we're going to do this. And he was like, but wait a minute. We talked about this. We were going to do this and this. Lance before would never, he would know that Carol was not down. You know what I'm like? He seems to be in his own world. Like, yeah, I've got her convinced. I managed to convince her that this is what she should do. And then when she wasn't going to do that, it just totally blew his mind. No, we talked about this. We were going to not burn the place down. And she's like, I never agreed to that. You said that. You said that.
Yeah, he's always looking for a way in. And like, you know, some people will just say, nah, you agreed to that. You know, and then like at some point you might actually think, well, I don't remember saying, but maybe he's right. And like, who do you think these people are? But that's the thing. He's not putting two and two together. He's assuming that he's going to get one over Carol, let's say, and find his way in with whomever is in charge. And it's obviously going to be them, maybe. It's obviously going to be them, probably. The commander-in-chief and the first man. Governor Carol Pelletier. And the first man, Daryl Dixon. Anyway, that has a nice ring to it. Anyway,
the first
Governor
man.
Pelletier. I'm making a lot of assumptions here. I'm not shipping Daryl and Carol. I just want to make that clear. But Lance is thinking he's a Carol shipper. That's all. Anyway, so... Well, he kind of caught on really quick that Carol does need Daryl, and he does have his uses, because if not for him, they would have been saved. So I think he's thinking, oh, they're a package deal. Hey, Daryl, Carol told me that they're not going to burn this shit down. So yeah, so that's what's happening. He's like, no, it's not. I know her better than you, bitch. Okay.
Can you imagine Daryl's like, I want to say coronation. That's not the right word. Whenever they're sworn in, I can't remember.
His first man speech?
Yeah, his first man speech. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
She's the boss. Bye.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'll have a beer.
Do it. Do as she says.
Yeah, beer? What?
Have you seen my dog?
He died from the
Where's
drug
my dog?
overdose. The bus. Anyway, sorry. Don't want to bring you all down. Dog is dead. Sorry. Oh, we're waiting for a main character to die.
No.
Oh no.
Hey, you know what Iris says? That's what you get.
No. I could take
Anyway.
anybody but dog. I could take anybody but dog, for real.
Okay, couple of questions. So the little tunnel, I'm going to call it a tunnel for lack of a better phrase, that Lance and Carol are walking through. Did they walk through something, or did they go in and then come out the same way they went in? This is a real question.
It looks like they came through it. They went through it to detour, find another way to get to where they were going to go ultimately, which is the train tracks or station.
Okay, and Lance was not leading her to the soldiers, right? That was just a coincidence that they were waiting for them on the other end?
I didn't feel like he was leading her there. How the hell would he know the soldiers were going to be there? He's been crazy in a jail cell.
Were the soldiers there?
Maybe they've got a bug on him or something.
Maybe. So Carol drops the flashlight, and it gets kicked away, and Lance picks it up and is just sort of like watching. Is he like wanting her to get bit? Like, what's happening? What is this? Why is he just standing watching? I mean, I know he's useless.
He disappeared with the light, and then a few minutes later he came back. So my feeling was like, Dave said he's not thinking straight. He's like, I'm gonna disappear and make her think that I'm leaving, and then when I come back, she'll be like, oh, I can trust him, right? Or she'll be glad that I came back with the light.
I thought you were right behind me.
My first reaction was like, oh, he's really not all there.
He did seem a little out of it.
I think he also puts a lot of stock into Carol, too. Who can blame him? He thinks, oh, she's going to be just fine.
And she is.
Which, true, but what if she wasn't? Okay, let me put this in perspective within the same episode. One of the first things we see is Daryl almost dying in the beginning. He had a hard time with that one dude, which is very important to note. Is that like, yeah, no, they're not invulnerable. Technically, Daryl is, but Carol, on the other hand, is not. I mean, but still, anyway, but it does have this contrast of like, okay, you could be forgiven for thinking that they are invulnerable, but here's a scene that proves that they're not. Had Carol not come in, that there would have been trouble. Same thing with the end. Had Daryl not come in, they would have been dead or captured or whatever.
They were ready to kill him. We're going to say they put up a fight.
And you know what else? Okay. I don't fault Lance either for his crazy brain. Who cares? That they managed to break into a prison facility, bust him out with an ankle monitor. That alerted everybody to their presence and still managed to get them all out.
Well, there you go. It was the ankle monitor. That's how they found him.
That's very possible. Yeah.
Another question. Why didn't Daryl just cut it off with one of his giant fucking knives and leave it in the cell?
Because then they'd have to carry him. That was the thing he said. He said, "Are you?"
No.
No,
He
she
said
just
he'd have to
means
cut
the
off my
monitor.
foot. Why didn't he cut off the strap?
Oh, because that would have, just like an ankle monitor. Once you do that, it's a closed loop.
They had to run anyway. So cut the fucking thing off and then run.
No, good point. That's a good point. I guess, I don't know. I guess time was of the essence.
But they had
I-
time to beat Sebastian's face in.
They're also not that easy to cut.
The alarm hadn't gone off yet when they beat Sebastian's face in. They could
True,
have beat Sebastian's face on, then cut it off.
Yes.
And then run.
Or gotten as far as they could before it went off, then cut it off and ran the rest of the way.
Right, but they're not easy to cut either.
That's true.
They have a couple of bits of steel wire surrounding it too.
Yeah.
But you've
so
seen
it's-
Daryl's knives.
It isn't that easy to cut.
How many ankle monitors have you had on, David?
Just don't ask questions you don't want the answers. Well, now you do. So no, I haven't.
To be honest, it depends on the kind of ankle monitor he's wearing. It depends.
Yeah.
There are different types.
But a single knife isn't going to do it too. You would need like one of those hedge cutting clipper thing with pressure and leverage to, like a chain link fence. You just
Yeah.
cut the two little steel
Yeah,
wires that are running through the
sawing
edges.
at it with those knives would take a while. And you'd also risk
dull the
cutting the
knife.
crap out of, you risk cutting the shit out of Lance.
Yeah.
And then you would have to carry him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what good is that? No, and you know what? They already had the two assholes in the hallway, but the one thing that you would be right about is like, why would they give him enough time to bash Sebastian's head? And I suppose that would take not a lot of time, given
Couple good whacks.
he has time for that, but not to cut it off. But even then, it's a gamble. So
Yeah.
why take
Yeah.
it? And then risk him having to limp and hobble and whatnot and bleed all over the place, leaving a trail everywhere. I'm okay with that. But you're right. If they had established a perimeter with some sort of passive radio frequency triangulation method, they could actually somewhat pinpoint where he would be
An
roundabout.
approximate area. Yeah.
Exactly. So which is
They
why
could.
they probably found him. And they've been aggressively patrolling. They knew who they're after. In fact, the beginning establishes a kill order against Daryl Dixon. Also, if they resist, you're allowed to
Dead.
shoot on sight, but discreetly, because the Commonwealth, they want them to know that the immigrants are being expelled. They don't want to know that they're being killed. And they don't want them to definitely know that they're being held as slaves. So
I think I prefer laborers.
with everything that Yumiko is fighting against, and it's great that she picks up on the walkie with the conversation with the colonel that some of the people did escape from their grasp and were not captured. And it's great to know that there was another bit that she heard over the walkie. Oh yeah, that this squad, just to prove the fact that they got even further away, is that this squad is dead. They found the squad that Daryl and Carol killed. This gave her the chance that Eugene was mentioning, that it's not over yet. This is not the end. I think that was my favorite part of this entire episode, was the scene with Yumiko and the full court press that I had trouble saying in the reaction video, which I might keep in, is that she takes that chance. It was very satisfying. There's a part of me that thinks with all the buildup that like, okay, she's not going to automatically switch over and defend Eugene, because it feels bleak. They paint a very bleak picture for Eugene, Yumiko, Tomi, all these people that are waiting in the wings to have some sort of escape plan or justice or whatnot. And so when it happened that Yumiko said she was going to defend Eugene, given all this information, what was going on through your mind throughout that entire scene? And how did you feel about that scene too? Because I want to know what you guys thought.
So in one of the trailers that we saw, I don't remember which one because we've seen a lot of trailers. I do remember a blip of a courtroom and Yumiko standing right next to Eugene. At first, she said she was going to prosecute. I thought, oh, that's weird, because I remember seeing her standing next to him in a courtroom. That's not typically where a prosecutor stands. at some point she was going to be defending him, not prosecuting. But I didn't know how it was going to happen. Pamela basically telling her, "Don't forget your lines. You know, make sure you say all the right stuff."
In the theater that you claim this is.
Right. She has to say these words to save her friends because she doesn't know where they are. And right now it's like, okay, say this bullshit so that you can be reunited with your friends. But at the same time, she might also be thinking that's bullshit too. For all she knows, they're dead. Which is why when she called Tommy out and was like, you know, my brother, he's your thoracic surgeon and saved people's lives. I thought, you know what? Good for you for putting him in everyone's face so that when shit goes down, they can't just disappear him. Everyone's looking at him. She's putting him in everybody's face like, hey, I'm healthy. I'm here. There's no reason for me to just disappear. He's still relevant to everybody. So I thought that was a really good idea. That was her way of sort of protecting her brother because she knew what she was going to do at that point, right? Like we had seen the switch. Remember?
You know what was great? In the absence of knowing what she was going to do, because you still didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know that was going to, I will speak for myself. I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought maybe that was a little bit of her initially struggling with this thing that she's about to do. After having that conversation with him, she's acknowledging the hard choice she had to make and saying, brother, I know this is definitely, I'm listening to you. I thought, okay, she's listening to him, but she's just saying, but if anything happens to him, like you said, is anything happens, if you put a limelight on this doctor that now everybody knows in this full court press, fine. And then it's like a little extra guarantee on top of everything else. But then what she does turns into a whole nother layer when she announces that she's going to be defending Eugene. Because when she does that, it's not only to highlight that this is a person that you can't disappear, but it's also a secret message to her brother that, I know you say you want me to survive, but I know you. And we've established that Tommy wants better. Tommy wanted to be a cake maker. Tommy wanted what Lance says is that you can be who you want to be. You can be whatever you decide to make yourself. And so I think that was her saying, I'm going to do what I think you actually want me to do because it can be better.
It can be better. So there was a line that I think they were trying to establish. They were trying to tell us viewers that some time had passed. We've been at the Commonwealth for a year.
Since the last Founders Day, essentially?
Yeah. And I think there was a throwaway line that is supposed to sort of cement that. I don't know how they would do it, but I wish there would have been some mention of other cases that Yumiko has worked on. Because they call her the most established or the most accomplished attorney in the Commonwealth. That's how they refer when they're calling her up to the lectern to give her speech.
I thought they might be calling her that because she went to Oxford or like the most accomplished pre-apocalypse attorney that they have.
Just as establishing it by saying it, maybe.
I took it as that she's worked a lot, that she's accomplished in the Commonwealth. That's how I took it anyway. So I wish there would have been a few mentions. Again, I don't know how. This is me being super, super nitpicky. But if she is an accomplished attorney in the Commonwealth, then there should have been other cases she's worked on, and we could have heard about them.
Well, one of the ones that they had sort of explored and shown on the show was that of Sebastian Milton, the investigation, being Pamela's sort of PR, quelling down the crowds, the protesters in the station / House of Government. They knew of her by her being in the limelight in that situation too. There's a little establishment there. Also,
typically, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. You're either a prosecutor or a defense attorney.
But you can switch, just
That's
like
why
Bill Oakley did.
Typically.
If you're a prosecutor and decide you don't want to prosecute people anymore, then you can definitely switch to being a defense lawyer.
Right,
Yeah.
but she decided, in the moment. I just found it funny, is all. It just made me laugh.
Well, I mean, I don't think you are delineated as a prosecutor or a defense attorney. Say you're a prosecutor, but you have a friend that gets in trouble and they need a defense lawyer. They can definitely hire you to do that. There's no law saying you can't do both.
No.
It would be hard to run a practice if you did both.
Typically, an attorney would specialize, though.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Because it establishes their flex, their strategy.
Right.
I want to just say a couple things that Mitchell said, too. In the end, they might still kill Eugene, which I don't want to happen. He needs a happy ending.
He got a couple of them already, didn't he?
They did do some really good character building, which we really went through in the last episode. So to get rid of him...
And I think he is happy, right? I mean, despite the current situation, he found true love.
So he can die peacefully,
Yeah. And it was
know.
reciprocated love.
Right.
I love that.
Requited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he also says in response to all of us is exactly, it would make Pamela look suspicious if Tommy disappeared. Then they would know that he's lying and not trust her anymore. Right.
Yep.
Another
Yes.
nail in the coffin.
Yes.
Right. But knowing that she has a chance now and that there is a chance, she's going to take it. And what's great about that also is that your move now, bitch. Really. Who are you going to get to prosecute at the end of the day?
Who is she going to get? Like, we have not seen any other attorneys. Who is she going to get to prosecute?
It may be somebody we've seen before.
Do it herself.
That
That would be something.
wouldn't it? Or maybe make Max do it. I don't know. I don't know if she's qualified, but anyway.
I don't know if she, yeah.
Well, I would love to see a supercut of all of the horrified looks from Pamela in this episode. Like,
All the disgusted looks in this
Yes.
episode from her were just choice. They were just so choice.
was
But all
good
the
shit.
digs she got in were also good too. Like as much as some of those scenes were just too. I don't know how much I want to get into this, but I have another axe to grind with some of these scenes. They were just too. I don't know, like too on the nose, right? Oh, there's donors and special interests. There was a part of me that was kind of like, but then I don't know if their goal was to kind of make it super obvious to the point of ridiculousness, just like Sebastian's character, okay? That he's so serious about being such a dick that it's actually kind of funny. Then okay, mission accomplished, and I'm okay with it, fine. But just establishing that this is the game, this is how the sausage is made. She's really leaned into this life in politics to the point where she's stopped giving a shit about people and the Commonwealth. And I'm okay with that. Maybe it just establishes her as just a really bad person, and I'm okay with that. If she's the big bad, I'm okay with that. But what is going to win the day? This is something that I've been assuming this entire time. But just like I was assuming that Lance was going to survive this because of what he says in this episode, you can't leave these people undefended in a power vacuum, having them exposed to what the Walking Dead really is, and that's power. Like Judith says in the beginning, let's take it all the way back to that. She says the only thing worse than the dead are the living. But without the living, what's there to live for?
Yeah.
The difference is knowing when to bet on people and knowing when not to bet on Lance, essentially. But that's the thing. If they're going to beat Pamela, they have to beat Pamela the right way, which means a day in court in a fair trial. That's the only way that they're going to beat Pamela, which is kind of like why it contrasts poorly the way Lance goes out. Because, I thought that we were going to do this all the right way to evolve into the final Pokemon where, like, in this moment, it feels like they're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're just going to not. They gave him a chance. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. They did not have to give him a chance.
Yeah.
But why is that? Can we just explore why that is so confusing, or why we have these feelings? Did you have that feeling also? Like, does it feel like they're going like backpedaling a little bit? Did you feel that in that scene? Sorry, I know we're going back to this, but just gut feeling. Did it feel weird? Like, are they backsliding? Are they going back to the days of brutalness out in the wild? I had that feeling. I'm like, I thought they were evolving, that sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It just felt gut reaction. It felt that way. Even though on paper, they're fine. I think they're fine.
I think Carol has always known what is necessary. Some people call it brutal, but I call it necessary.
Doesn't that, I don't know. It's just a feeling I get for all the growth and evolving that we were saying about Daryl, in the last few episodes. To have it come back to that. I don't know. I just felt like we were flip-flopping. Do you know what I mean? Like let's give Judith time to come around, or do you know what I mean? And then you could come back to this, but maybe that just goes to show that they can
I think that's kind of the message, right? You can't totally give up the savage side because you're always going to need it in this world. So even if you try to step away from it, you're never going to be able to really step away from it.
Gotcha. Yeah,
you always got to be some level of savage.
Right. We can't let that go completely at all. No, and you know what? I was hoping that in this conversation, you guys would help me be okay with this episode, because I was coming into it thinking like, this feels funny. Some of this feels funny. The Yumiko scenes, all of the scenes, just delicious gold that I love. Even the disgusting parts of like donors and replacing Max. And Max. I know, right? This weird feeling like that she took Max for granted by saying her name. Also, that's what I got out of that. Not like she's missing her. She just took her for granted, like a fixture on the wall. So I like how they did that. Like that part was so disgusting, but I loved it that it was disgusting in a sense. I'm coming around to like liking that she's just so gross.
She's so gross.
and slippery and weird.
I want her to be worse than Lance, especially now that Sebastian's gone.
She's like double Lance. Well, and she's pulling his move, Sebastian's move, right? Like taking the opportunity to turn these migrants into slaves.
But we don't know what they're doing yet.
Well, maybe, like you said, to be like Lance. So maybe she's taking Lance's idea and expanding on it in her own way.
Could they be
Infrastructure
taking
projects.
them to work on the railroad? Because we know they're taking them in the train, taking them to Outpost 22, which is Alexandria. Technically.
Fix your own community.
Because, okay, so I actually watched some videos about this today, about the train thing, which in the comics, Eugene goes and helps to build the train tracks out west to form a Western Alliance. So what if that's what they're doing with these slaves, is taking them to work on the railroad to help recognize this Western Alliance? And do you think the Western Alliance is with the CRM?
Ooh.
Interesting.
Omaha, Portland.
I did want to mention, like, to tie that in a little bit, some of the feelings that we may have towards this episode feel like we're throwing away all the bad guys so that they can do this bigger thing with the universe. And this has been my fear for the last several episodes, that so now that we've gotten in, like, we're 3 episodes deep, covering the 4th of this trimester. And one of the fears that I had in the back of my head, which I don't even know that I expressed on the show, was that they were going to be so busy setting up the future that they don't put this series to bed the right way. And that's kind of what I've been feeling with the Leahs, the Popes. Pope was one too. The Reapers, Lance, Sebastian, that they didn't put this series to bed, that they're so busy trying to set up the rest of the lore that's to come, that they don't give this series a proper, in and of itself, send off. Oh, but if Rick shows up in the last episode, we'll all be okay. No, I won't. I won't be okay. This story needs a good conclusion.
A nice wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want the end. I don't want this to have an open ending just so we can go into the spin-offs.
We need a segment like Grace's fever dream in Fear, when she dreamed all of the people, 16 years down the future. Line.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the people in the future, and we can see Lydia and Eli have 5 little cute babies and
Negan and Annie having baby Carl Smith.
Negan, no, because she's a red shirt. The reddest of red shirts. Sure, Carl's perfect because the kid's gonna be dead.
Ooh, naming it Carl
2 times.
I would like one of those to show everybody in the future,
I'd be good with that.
Judith and whoever and their little kids and the next generation. It's Walking Dead, the next generation.
Right.
That's how the books end. The books have a huge time jump.
But does it feel like we're heading there? I'm just shooting from the hip here. Does it feel like we're heading in that direction?
I think it could.
Yeah, it could.
Mitchell said something. Wouldn't they have heard the train in the past, since the 11/21 preview shows the train running? So that almost makes me wonder if we are going to see a considerable time jump.
Oof.
We have
to see the trial. So
yeah, well, that's true. We do need to see that. But if it's anything like real life, a trial could take months. So we might jump a few months ahead too. If they do it properly, do a full investigation, prepare your case, blah, 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 gather witnesses. If they do a jury, they're going to have to pick a jury and go through that whole process. So it could take months before we see the trial.
And the next episode could be completely jumping between time. Like you said, it'll take it over the course of several months until we catch up to the point where our slaves have built the railroad.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep saying that, but it's important to emphasize the fact that, no, this is slavery. And she's taking after her son at this point.
And we also know
Lance.
that there's already a running train because Lance told us there was.
Yeah, because it forks in different paths. So they do have an established railway.
I mean, unless you were right by the railroad, you wouldn't necessarily hear the train. You'd hear the whistle, right? But why do you need the train whistle when there's no roads you have to cross or anything like that? So there's no reason to blow your train whistle. You wouldn't necessarily hear the train itself from a distance.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, let's say goodbye to Mitchell. I have to go. It was fun hanging out, being
good
a part
night,
of the episode.
Mitchell.
Bye, Mitchell.
I'll be
Thank you
watching
for
when
coming
it
and hanging
premieres over
out.
YouTube. And hey, you too can join in on the fun. You don't even have to follow us on Patreon or Ko-fi, by the way. If you just bookmark ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead, just check the page every day to see if we post something, recording schedule. You don't have to follow us. It could be better. if you did. And you can join in for
Fuck
free.
that. It could
Mitchell's
be
not
that.
even a supporter. I mean, he's a supporter, but he's not a paying supporter. So
And he's always here.
yeah,
We love
do
it.
this show for Mitchell.
Mitchell writes this show.
Yeah. Well, no, no. Bridget writes the show. Mitchell just enjoys it.
No, Mitchell writes the podcast.
Where do I come in?
You just show up. We all just show up.
I am Mitchell's Lance, is what it is.
There you go. Yeah. Yes.
He takes all the credit. I do all the work. It's fine. It's fine. All is right in the world. Pamela Shoemaker.
Hope he doesn't
So-
reach in your pocket.
Yeah,
Shrug.
take all the change. Take all the change out of your pockets.
Shrug.
The pocket cloth will be there. It's all right.
The paint. Oh, yeah.
Takes a sip of water. Lance had also mentioned that he was already trying to make it so that he can get to all these community. He painted a really great picture. This is why I hate to see him go. He painted a really great picture for Maggie, like a good pitch. Imagine Herschel going off to college.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that doesn't bother me. Like, it doesn't bother me that he was already on the way to doing that. Oh, I did want to mention one thing before we continue. I've been meaning to mention this for the last several episodes. Matthew Negretti, who obviously was executive producer of The Walking Dead World Beyond, but also has been producer of The Walking Dead. He was actually director for that special Connie episode in The Walking Dead's 9th season. When was it that the baby
The one with her
was,
and Virgil.
no, the one that was left in the field. Connie picks it up, and you get her
yeah,
vantage
yeah,
point.
yeah.
That was Matthew Negretti.
Okay.
So he was in charge of that. The other consulting producer on these episodes, these last few episodes, has been Eli Journet, who is EP of Dead City.
Ooh.
This is validating my fears a little bit. They need to get all these producers in here to establish continuity for their spin-offs, let's say, which also means, okay, bright side of all of that is that they may do something with World Beyond that we don't know about and we're not going to expect, possibly. If they're bringing in Matthew Negretti again.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was actually thinking today, how cool would it be? Now we're like 3 years past the events of The World Beyond, right? Because that was 10 years in, and now we're 13 and a half years in. So it's 3 years past the happenings of World Beyond. So it wouldn't be out of the question for Elton or Iris or Hope or any of them to show up. They could have gone to Portland and back by now. It's been 3 years. They could be part of the Western Alliance that comes back if they bring that into it. And maybe they all
Absolutely.
kind of form against the CRM. Maybe they can
Right,
turn Portland
right.
against them and bring the Western Alliance. And maybe that's going to be something that goes against the CRM.
Right, wouldn't be out of step with
Yeah.
what I'm basically saying is that, like, I think they're prepping. But again, like, this is a double-edged sword, right? Because if we're not properly wrapping up this series, I'm not saying what's the point. You're going to do it anyway. But I am a little concerned that there's too much set up to leave the show, that we're not going to leave the Walking Dead flagship show with a satisfying enough ending. But this kind of goes back to my point of what has been done to certain characters that, yes, you're not supposed to care about. You're not supposed to care about Leah. We did. You're not supposed to care about Lance. We did. I cared about even Pope and the Reapers, that they were there and murdered all the wardens, first of all, Meridian, that whole thing. So in a sense, like, even when you're a bad character you're not supposed to care about, their presence has to mean something. They have to carry forward. There has to be enough of a reason for them to be there, to care about the fact that they went away all of a sudden.
So then what was the point of Leah then? Because they
Right,
did
but that's what I'm
nothing with
saying.
her. They did absolutely nothing with her other than, her whole point was to prove that Daryl could have a girlfriend. I mean, was that like the
Right,
sole
but-
purpose for her being? So why make us care about these characters and then get rid of them? So I see what you're saying. You're afraid they're going to do that on mass scale. Make us love all
Right.
these characters and then give us
Right.
no fucking conclusion. Look at how horrible a conclusion Game of Thrones was. So I don't know,
Like an open-ended...
open-ended conclusion rather than a solid fuck you conclusion like we got with Game of Thrones.
But you know what? I think a conclusion period would be better than not having one. Like, for all the pain, let's take Game of Thrones as an example. I would have rather have had something satisfying, even if it wasn't as satisfying, for all the pain that we went through trying to somewhat moor ourselves to some of these characters, even though one by one they all die. You do need something to show for it. Even if that ending does fall a little flat, it was an ending. To not have an ending would dissatisfy everybody equally. That's kind of what I'm saying. So there needs to be an ending. or some sort of wrap up for all the pain we went through throughout The Walking Dead too. What's the point of the nostalgia scenes if not also to, first of all, obviously moor us to what this episode is about? That means, yes, people can be shit, but betting on the right people is everything. So we bet on Lance to a point, and then we know when to cut our losses because people can be shit. So there's an anchor there. But also the point of the nostalgia scenes also is to remind us of the journey. That journey needs to have, even if it's not, it needs an ending. Don't make your ending the setup for everything else. We need growth and a conclusion, don't we?
So everyone who's not getting a spinoff, except Carol, dies.
Is dead.
That's how we do that.
Just like you, Rachel, I have enough faith in what's happening. I actually, to the point where I have enough faith in what's happening now so that all the shit that we went through this season, because this season might end up being the worst. But that's a strong statement, I know. But if they do enough, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to stick it could be a rough landing, whatever. I'm not the judgmental type, but for all the pain all of our characters went throughout, that has to mean something. The Reapers, the Ferals, the Leah
wolves
herself, the wolves, termites, but more this season than anything else.
All the groups we've ever faced throughout the entire series, we've learned and grown from each and every single one of the experiences, and it should amount to something.
Right. But like even just for this season, there was a lot of pain this season, or perceived pain, right? Maggie, which she had to endure on the road, and then subsequently the extra fuck you that all her people die in the first trimester. That has to mean something. That's a lot of people.
I still want to know what happened before. Well, I mean, I guess we know the Reapers were involved, but I still want to know why Pope specifically marked Maggie. What the fuck did she do to piss him off so bad?
She was a woman. That's the
So was
message,
Leah.
right? Yeah, but Leah's second command.
When he came in and took over Meridian, she bucked him. She went against him, so he marked her. And that's probably like the simplest
But why
explanation.
her specifically?
Because he
she
probably saw
resisted.
her as the
Maybe
leader.
that was
She
it.
resisted, and she was their de facto leader.
Okay. So maybe the Reapers were an interesting foil for the way Carlson was interacting with Riverbend, in a sense. Because Carlson was definitely not Pope, like as a character. He was more of a snaky CIA kind of guy, right? But we were supposed to look at Ian and the Riverbend people as like with all the skulls in the back. We're supposed to look at them the way we do the Reapers. We're supposed to initially, right? Because they're the big sickle lady and the skulls in the back, right? So I can forgive that in a weird way, but then they died too, mostly. So it's just weird. It's weird. I'm sure if I do rewatch the season all the way through, I can maybe try to holistically tie all this together. I see what they were doing here, etc., etc. This pain must mean something. There's a lot of pain this season for a lot of our characters. Losing Hilltop, losing Marco. That was another thing that made me okay with losing Lance as a character, is that he orchestrated that. He made it possible so that he weaponized Leah against innocent people, all for the sake of getting a win, all for the sake of getting a way in again. See, it was all for something, Pamela, right? I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but I found out who took the caravan of weapons and dealt with them for you, whatever. And she's probably not even supposed to know about the caravan of weapons, which is the whole problem to begin with. Final thoughts. Like I said, as worried as I am about where this is all going and with only 4 episodes left, I am hopeful that they'll tie this up in some sort of conclusion that isn't Walking Dead-like, where you leave everybody off on the cliffhanger and Negan is about to hit somebody over the head with his bat, or 2 people. This has to kind of find a way to turn itself around, and in a way that shows us somewhat of a future for these characters, even if some of them don't make it along the way. And then there's variance in the wind. We can't ignore that. You can't just put that in there to not do something with it later.
Oh, yeah. That's got to come into play. Annie's on the outside chilling with Gabe and Aaron, right? Or no, Aaron's with Lydia and them. So Annie's just chilling
Jerry.
with Gabe?
And we've got all of Oceanside to contend with, too. Remember, we can't forget about them.
Yeah, we can't forget about Oceanside, who I'm assuming is all dead.
Including Luke and Jules, right?
Yeah, because
Right.
Luke was there, wasn't he?
Virgil's in the wind, too. We don't know where he is. But it's a good thing you mentioned him earlier. I would have forgot about him.
Oceanside may not be dead. They could have been sent to the slave camp.
That's true, too. The coin might have been, are you going to work for us, or are you going to die for us in Oceanside?
Yeah.
Because we saw Lance flipping the coin.
Interesting. Well, so I'm confident that we'll get some answers at least, so that's good. We know we're getting a trial.
But there's so many questions to wrap up in only 4 episodes. I'm really scared.
There's a lot you can do in 4 hours. And then also, I think, didn't I hear right that the last episode is going to be a longer one too, if I'm not mistaken?
I hope so. I really hope so.
Like an hour and a half, maybe, something like that.
I did not hear that, but I really hope so.
But I guess we'll find out at That's My Viewing Party, which we're going to be at in Covington, Georgia. Tickets are sold out, and whoever's going to be there is going to be there, but we're going to be there with merch.
I'm already crying.
Yeah. I'm just, I have these feelings that need to be resolved as a result of watching this episode. So I'm going to suspend the desire to cry in the absence of answers.
Already crying.
But yes, and we're also going to be at the camp in 1 week. Basically, a couple days from the time of this airing, possibly. We can't wait to see you. We have press, so we're going to be probably at most of the events that you're going to be at the camp. And if you're not, you can still buy tickets for the camp if you want to. We're going to have merch there. We're going to have a table there amongst all the actors, not in the vendor room. This is something we talked about behind the scenes. And if you want to be behind the scenes, listening to all our little plannings and be a part of what we're doing as a podcast, well, first of all, before you do all that, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Leave us 5 stars and an eggplant. It's all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. But just remember to tell us after every episode. Tell us what we missed, too, because we probably did miss a lot. It
Just say
happens.
something.
Yeah, and we'll publish it on social media. Just remember to leave your handle. And if you want to be a part of these behind-the-scenes conversations, if you want to know what we're doing behind the scenes, our recording schedules, because we don't post them on social media, just create a free account on Patreon or Ko-fi and follow us at ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. Like I said, we don't post our schedules on social media. We have been posting little updates lately to find out what you think we should do behind the scenes. But if you decide to buy us a coffee on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead, you'll get 30 days of supported back content. And if you join a membership tier on either patreon.com/squawkingdead or ko-fi.com/squawkingdead, you will get access to things like Discord, the ability to download our unedited episode recordings. I actually just lowered the price of the Patreon tiers to something that's a little bit more reasonable. So the Walkers tier is $3 instead of $5. The Whispers tier is $10 instead of $15. I thought that was a bit of a reach. But with it, if you decide that, hey, they're on Patreon, you can get some really cool introductory perks, like all tiers will get a sticker once they join after 3 months, and the Whispers tier will get a free t-shirt. Along with the Whispers tier is shout-outs at the end of the episode for the Whispers and Survivors tiers, 50% off the merch store, the ability to join us in our Jackbox games on camera and mic, and the Survivors tier itself gives you the ability to join us on camera and mic, breaking down these episodes alongside with us. There are a couple spots left on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. Think about it. Take a look at what we have to offer.
Do it.
But while you're doing that, remember to head to our merch store. There's a sale. And I've been your host, David Cameo. You were joined by Cosmom09, and I, Rachel Burt, and Sharon D.A.K. Blazing Gardner. We hope you've enjoyed this episode breakdown, because we're not quite sure. But we'd like to hear back from you. Like I said, rate, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Tell us why we suck, but tell us after every episode.
I would love to hear why I suck.
Yeah, well, I would love to show Rachel why she sucks. I don't know why I would do that. I would love to protect her from stuff like that, but I won't.
No, I want to hear all the good and all the bad.
Yeah.
Just as long as it's honest.
Yeah, be honest. Be honest. We try to be honest with you about our feelings.
Don't say dumb shit like I have stupid hair, because that's just not true.
Yeah, obviously.
My hair is awesome.
We'll see you next week. I think we're going to be recording before we go to camp, probably, maybe, or we can record while we're at the camp, though there really isn't much time to do that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know when we're going to have time for that.
It's quite a packed weekend that we have going on there. So we should probably record before we go. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next one, and fingers crossed that there's going to be some interestingly fine twists coming up. So, see you then. Bye.
Bye.
That's it. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode, the 20th episode of the 11th and final season of The Walking Dead, titled What's Been Lost, our episode 205. Without further ado, I don't want to dilly-dally. We'd like to list off our Survivors and Whisperers tier members in that order, the perk they receive at the end of these episodes for their patronage, and they are the following: at Eliza Jones 71 on Instagram, at JonesAG6 on Twitter, Jasmine.iac on Instagram, FanArtLindy, ko-fi.com/FanArtLindy, Linda Jennings, who is the admin of the Facebook group Walking Dead is Freaking Amazing, and at RealRyanGM on Twitter. On to our Whispers tier members: at Judith.Morton on Instagram, ko-fi.com/Aiden Atkin, at Tyler Phillip Cox on Instagram and Twitter, at Sandy.D.Morrison on Facebook, at J13 Voorhees on Instagram and Twitter, and at MRTNYVet on Twitter. Thanks so much for listening. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget to rate us at ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead after every episode, including this one. And if you're interested in joining one of our tier memberships, namely either the Whisperers or Survivors tier members, but you could always start slow and join the Walkers tier, you can always do that on either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. Until next time, we're racing towards the end of The Walking Dead's 11th and final season. Can't wait to see you in the next one.